Ever ordered something online and wonder how it got to you so fast?
Or how about how stores always seem to have the products you need?
Well, get ready, because today we are diving deep into the fascinating world of supply chain management, or SCM, for those in the know,
We'll be untangling the complex web that gets products from suppliers to customers.
and exploring how companies are using SCM to stay ahead of the game.
That's right. We've got this awesome document called supplychainstrategy.pdf as our guide. It really breaks down the core components of SCM and highlights some super interesting examples right here in Malaysia.
So let's get into it. We hear a lot about supply chains, but can you explain, I'm five, what SCM actually is?
Okay, so basically imagine a relay race.
I'm following.
You've got different runners, each responsible for carrying the baton a certain distance.
Gotcha.
In SCM, the baton is the product.
Makes sense.
And the runners are all the different steps involved in getting that product from raw materials all the way to your doorstep.
So like manufacturing, transportation, warehousing, even retail.
You got it. SCM is about making that entire race as smooth and efficient as possible.
Interesting. So it's not just about moving stuff around, it's about strategy too, right?
Absolutely. SCM is about using those steps, those runners, to achieve key business goals.
Like what?
Well, think about it. Every business wants to keep costs down right.
Yeah, makes sense.
And they want to deliver products quickly and efficiently.
Of course, nobody wants to wait forever for their online order.
Exactly. And they want to keep customers happy.
Which means having the products they want when they want them.
Bingo. A well-oiled supply chain impacts all of that. We're talking about cost savings, efficiency, and ultimately a better experience for the customer.
So it's not just about logistics, it's about making the whole system work better.
Precisely. And this document breaks down SCM into some key components. We're talking network design, sourcing, inventory management, and of course, technology.
Okay, so let's unpack those, starting with network design. What's that all about?
Well, imagine you're a big company like Nestle Malaysia.
Okay, familiar with their chocolate for sure.
Exactly. They have to figure out where to put their factories and warehouses so they can get those delicious treats.
And their other products.
Right, all their products to stores all over Malaysia as quickly and affordably as possible.
Sounds complicated.
It is. It's like a giant puzzle. They have to consider things like where their customers are located.
So they can get products to them quickly.
Yep. They have to think about transportation costs, which can vary a lot depending on the route.
True. Fuel costs, road conditions, all that.
Exactly. And they even have to consider the risk of natural disasters or other disruptions that can mess things up.
Yeah, Malaysia can get some pretty intense weather sometimes.
So network design is all about strategic placement, making sure everything is in the best possible spot for smooth sailing.
Makes sense. So once they've figured out their network, they need to think about sourcing right. Where are they getting all the stuff they need to make their products?
You got it. Sourcing is all about choosing the right suppliers for the job.
And I imagine there are lots of factors to consider.
There are. Cost is a big one, of course. Companies want to get the best possible prices for their raw materials.
Sure, but it's not always just about the cheapest option.
Right. You're absolutely right. Companies today are also thinking about sustainability.
So making sure they're sourcing materials ethically and responsibly.
Exactly. And they have to consider risk, too.
Like, what if there's political instability in a certain region?
Precisely. Or what if a natural disaster disrupts a key supplier?
Yeah, those are all things companies have to juggle when making sourcing decisions.
It's a balancing act for sure. And actually, this ties into something you mentioned earlier, the difference between SCM and the value chain. They're definitely related, but they focus on different things.
You know, I always get those two mixed up. Can you explain the difference? I bet our listeners are wondering too.
Sure. Let's use that Nestle chocolate bar example again.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm hungry now.
SCM makes sure that all the ingredients for that chocolate bar,
The cocoa beans, the sugar, the
Bro,
powder,
everything, it makes sure all of those get to the factory on time.
so they can make the chocolate
Exactly. Then SCM makes sure the finished chocolate bars get packaged up.
and shipped to stores.
Right, where you can buy them. The value chain, on the other hand, is all about making that chocolate bar something you actually want to buy.
So like the marketing, the packaging, the brand reputation, all that.
Exactly. It's about creating value at each stage of the process so that the final product is something people are willing to pay for.
Okay, that makes sense. So SEM is about the flow of stuff,
Yeah.
and the value chain is about making that stuff valuable.
You got it. They work together, but they have different focuses.
So you need both for a successful business.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about another key component of SCM, inventory management.
Yes, the delicate dance of having enough stuff, but not too much stuff.
Exactly. You don't want to run out of the products people want.
That's for sure. I hate it when I go to the store and they're out of my favorite snack.
Right. But you also don't want to have too much inventory sitting around taking up space and costing you money.
True. Warehousing costs are a real thing.
So inventory management is all about finding that sweet spot.
So how do companies do that?
Well, there are lots of different approaches, but one popular method is called just-in-time inventory.
Just in time. Sounds intriguing.
It is. Basically, it means that companies only order materials and produce products when they need them.
So they're not holding on to a bunch of extra stuff just in case.
Exactly. It's a lean approach that helps reduce waste and save money.
That's pretty cool. So it's like they have this finely tuned system where everything arrives just when it's needed.
Exactly. Think of it like ordering a pizza online.
Okay, I can always get behind a pizza analogy.
The pizza place doesn't start making your pizza until you place your order right.
Right. Otherwise it would get cold and soggy.
Exactly. Just-in-time inventory is kind of like that. They wait for the order signal, then they spring into action.
I like it. So no wasted ingredients, no wasted time.
Exactly. And it's not just about pizza, of course. This approach can be applied to all sorts of products.
Makes sense. So I've talked about network design sourcing and inventory management. What about technology? I feel like that's a big piece of the puzzle these days.
Oh, absolutely. Technology is revolutionizing SCM in so many ways.
Like how?
Well, for starters, we have real-time tracking systems powered by the Internet of Things, or IoT.
Okay, I've heard of IoT, but can you explain it in the context of SCM?
Sure. Imagine you're tracking your online order rate.
Yep, I do that all the time.
You can see exactly where your package is every step of the way.
And get excited when it's almost here.
Exactly. Well, businesses can do the same thing with their products using IoT sensors.
So they know where everything is in real time.
Yep. They can track products as they move from suppliers to factories to warehouses to stores, all in real time.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So they can see any bottlenecks or delays right away.
Exactly. And that allows them to be more proactive and efficient.
Makes sense. So what other cool technologies are impacting SCM?
Well, another big one is blockchain.
Okay, blockchain. That one always sounds a little mysterious.
I know, right? But it's actually pretty simple at its core. It's basically a digital ledger that's super secure and transparent.
Okay, and how does that apply to SCM?
Well, imagine you're buying a product, say coffee beans, and you want to know for sure that they were sourced ethically.
Yeah, that's important to me.
With blockchain, you can track those coffee beans every step of the way, from the farm where they were grown to the store where you buy them.
You can be confident that they're the real deal.
Exactly. Blockchain provides that extra layer of transparency and trust that's becoming increasingly important to consumers.
That's pretty cool. So technology is really giving companies and consumers more visibility and control over the supply chain.
It is. But even with all these amazing advancements, SCM still faces some challenges.
Like what?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is demand forecasting.
Which is basically trying to predict what people will want to buy in the future.
Exactly. And as you know, consumer trends can be pretty unpredictable.
Yeah, one minute everyone's obsessed with air fryers, the next it's something completely different.
Exactly. So companies are always trying to stay ahead of the curve using data analytics and other tools to predict what's coming next.
Right, because if they guess wrong, they could end up with too much inventory or not enough.
Exactly. And that can lead to lost sales or wasted resources.
Makes sense. So what other challenges do companies face?
Well, sustainability is a big one.
Yeah, we talked about sourcing ethically, but there's more to it than that, right?
Right. Companies are also looking at ways to reduce their environmental impact throughout the entire supply chain.
So like reducing transportation emissions, using less packaging, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's about making the entire process more sustainable from start to finish.
Right, because consumers are increasingly demanding eco-friendly products and practices.
Absolutely. And then, of course, there are the unexpected disruptions like pandemics, natural disasters, political unrest.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that in recent years.
It can really throw a wrench in the works. Companies have to be adaptable and resilient, finding creative solutions to keep things moving.
So it's all about being flexible and able to pivot when things change.
Exactly. The companies that can do that best are the ones that will thrive in today's complex world.
Speaking of thriving, the document highlighted some interesting success stories right here in Malaysia.
It did. Companies like Nestle, Malaysia, Petronas, and Padini are all using SCM to achieve some pretty impressive results.
Okay, let's dive into those examples, starting with Nestle Malaysia.
Well, we talked about just-in-time inventory earlier, and that's something Nestle Malaysia has really embraced.
So they're making sure they have the right ingredients on hand just when they need them.
Exactly. And that helps them avoid waste and keep their costs down.
Which is good for them and good for consumers.
Right. And then there's Petronas, the Malaysian oil and gas giant.
Okay, now we're talking big-time SCM.
We are. They operate in a global market that can be really volatile, so risk management is a huge priority for them.
So they need to make sure they have a reliable supply of oil and gas no matter what's happening in the world.
Exactly. They've invested heavily in diversifying their supply sources.
So they're not reliant on just one country or region.
Right. And they've also developed sophisticated systems for predicting and responding to potential disruptions.
That's smart. So they're always one step ahead of the game.
They try to be. And then there's Padini, the Malaysian fashion retailer.
Okay, Padini, I know them. They're all about fast fashion, all right?
They are. They've built their entire supply chain around speed and agility.
So they can get those trendy new clothes to customers as quickly as possible.
Exactly. They have a super efficient distribution network, and they work closely with their suppliers to make sure they can respond quickly to changing fashion trends.
That's impressive. So they're able to stay competitive in a fast-paced industry.
They are, and they're a great example of how SCM can be a key differentiator in the marketplace.
It's really amazing to see these Malaysian companies leading the way in SCM.
It is. They're showing the world how it's done.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, from the basics of SCM to some really cool examples.
We have. It's clear that SCM is a crucial part of business success in today's global economy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's something that impacts all of us as consumers.
It does. Whether we realize it or not, SCM is at work behind the scenes, making sure we have the products we need and want.
True that. And as technology continues to evolve, SCM is only going to get more sophisticated and impactful.
I think so too. It's an exciting time to be following this field.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into supply chain management. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Now I suddenly have a craving for a Nestle Crunch bar.
You and me both. I wonder how long it would take to get one delivered.
With today's super efficient supply chains, probably not long at all. Until next time.
See you then.
Bye.